Hello there. So in this session, we're going to dive into body, our relationship to body, body image. That's a big topic recently. And unfortunately, very few people today have like healthy body image. And that's not just isolated to women, right? It used to be maybe a few decades ago that it was kind of like a thing women had to manage was this idea of around unhealthy body image. But it's just prevalent. It's just as prevalent today now with men, right? When I work with people one-on-one and, especially when we do our deeper programs like evolution, intermatrix evolution, where we, really do, look into the depths of what's occurring for people. Oftentimes they'll share it in those programs and on a one-on-one basis when they feel safe to do so. They'll share the things they often have never shared with any other human being before ever. And so I really get, kind of a first hand account, if you will, to what actually goes on for people, as opposed to what we assume is there for people in a really in-depth way. And I would say, the last, few years or so, last 5 years, I would say, more prevalent than ever, I hear from, men and women, how insecure they are or how insecure they feel about how they look, about where their body is. And what's fascinating is that it really doesn't matter how they look. Like I work with, pro athletes and fitness trainers and people, both men and women, who have these, amazing athletic physiques, the amazing looking bodies, and they feel disgusted in their body. They feel a lot of shame and guilt tied to their body, a lot of disgust tied to their body, even though they look, from most people's standards, they look amazing. And then obviously you've got the whole spectrum to, individuals who maybe, struggle with their weight. And from a clinical standpoint, are in the realms of like obesity, where their weight is, actually causing health challenges, right? So when I say obesity, and I'm speaking of people who are heavier, I'm speaking of a clinical standpoint where, and I don't know exactly what it is, but it's like, it's a little different for men and women, but at a certain point, if you have a certain level of body fat percentage, all of a sudden your risk for things like diabetes and stroke and heart attack, skyrocket, even at young ages. Children for the first time, are getting diabetes prevalently. And they're only like 12 years old, right? 10 years old, 14 years old. And like a child having diabetes was a rare exception or almost unheard of, 20, 30 years ago. Like these are new things that are happening, right? But even if we're, weight challenged and, somebody's very heavy, the relationship to the body, for people can struggle there. Again, disgust and shame and guilt, insecurity can all be tied to the inherent way the body looks, right? And so, we've got to understand, like, how do we evolve this relationship to the way the body looks? Because if we have an expectation that the body is to be a certain way that it can never be, then we're going to suffer no matter what that looks like. And so often we have these expectations of ourselves that are impossible to achieve. And that is really, I would say, the most prevalent reason why so many people struggle or even suffer over the way their body looks today, is because, we've got this unhealthy and unrealistic idea of how the body's supposed to look. And a lot of that has been the result of marketing, right? And it's so prevalent and it's becoming more and more well known that certain countries are even making it illegal to modify pictures of people when they put them on a magazine cover or things of this nature. And so what a lot of people don't understand is, when you see a model on a magazine cover, that isn't the way that person looks, right? And same thing when you watch a movie, a lot of people understand that the way a lot of these actors and actresses look in a movie is not the way they look in their day-to-day lives. And so they're highly modified, to look a certain way based on marketing appeal. And so like in a magazine, they might do a photo shoot, and then they take those photos and they Photoshop them. They change the features about the person, the skin tone, they make them skinnier, right? They add more definition to the muscles in a way that literally we're creating this fantasy idea of the way we're supposed to look that in many cases, in most cases, isn't even achievable to get there, in the body, right? And so we're creating this literally fantasy expectation or idea about how we're supposed to look, right? And so when we have this expectation of how we're supposed to look, and we're literally tying that to something that's not possible in terms of what the body can do or become, all of a sudden we're never meeting the expectation of how we should be. And every time we don't meet the expectation of how we should be, we're going to feel sad. We're going to feel disappointed. We're going to feel unworthy. We're going to feel insecure. We're not going to feel good enough. And all of a sudden, this can become a very big problem or even a disorder over time. And we can also see this unrealistic idea or expectation of how we're supposed to look, when we tie it to aging today. Our culture and our modern society, it has made it such that there's this weird idea out there that like it's not okay to age, right? And again, this is all driven by marketing companies and by ad agencies selling beauty products. If we understand that there's these multi-billion-dollar industries out there that are inherently designed, right? The marketing efforts are designed to make people feel bad about how they look, so they buy their products, right? Like makeup companies wouldn't sell very much makeup if everybody felt great about who they are and how they look, right? Because you wouldn't need makeup. And so if the marketing, creates or instills a sense of inadequacy in people and insecurity and worthiness, and then says, hey, go buy these things, like all of a sudden, right, that's profitable for them. Same thing, right? When we look at what drives, like I look at the hair industry, right? I mean, women and men spend so much money on their hair, which is fine to do. I'm not saying there's any problem with that. But if insecurity and inadequacy and disgust in oneself is what's driving that process, that is a problem, because now you're training disgust in relationship to the body. You're training insecurity. You're training, fear, right, of not being accepted oftentimes to these things. And all of a sudden you see a gray hair and, that's unacceptable. So we have to go do something about it, right? As opposed to understanding the healthy dynamics tied to aging. So if I have this idea as an example that so many people have today, that I'm supposed to look 25 forever, right? I'm supposed to look 28 forever. And, I move into my later years of life. I move into my late 40s or my 50s or 60s or 70s or 80s. And I have this idea that I'm supposed to look 30. That's a very big problem, right? I see, individuals who are in those phases of life, right? They're in their 60s and they think they're supposed to look 30 still. And this is, again, an expectation that can't get met. And so if we really look at the foundation of like, where does, unhealthy body image comes from, it really is usually tied to an expectation of how we're supposed to be or look that isn't where we currently are, and is often unrealistic in terms of what's actually achievable. And so, I'm going to say that again. So often when people have a challenge with body image, it's linked and it's tied to one is an expectation of the way they're supposed to be, the way the body's supposed to look, and the body's not there right now. And so, we're missing the expectation of how the body's supposed to look and be. And the byproduct of that is disappointment or regret, shame, guilt, disgust, and all those things I mentioned. And then a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times, this expectation is tied to a way that the body's supposed to look or be that is actually completely unrealistic. It's fabricated and isn't actually how a body is. And so if I'm trying to achieve the way a body's supposed to look, that's a really big problem. Another example of that for men, I remember years ago, if you guys remember, there was a movie, it was called 300 that came out. And I remember all my friends, right, at that time decided they were supposed to look like the guys in 300, right, the Spartans. And what I told them, because I was, a lot of my clients were in the movie industry, My clients were, directors and, executives at Sony and famous actors and actresses. And what a lot of people didn't realize was that, in that movie 300, they painted the abs on those guys. Like, yes, those individuals are pretty fit, but like literally before they went to shoot, they put makeup on their abs to make them look bigger and more defined. And then after that, they edited the videos to enhance their look and their muscles and their appeal. And so now all of a sudden there's literally this like art, right? This like made up body image that then men are going out there to try to sculpt and achieve. And they're like, well, I don't understand why I'm not getting there. All those guys did it in that movie. And then a lot of them, like all of a sudden they resort to steroids and things like this to try to enhance their body image, or they start starving themselves and doing all kinds of unhealthy things that are just really, really not only bad for you, but then again, exacerbate this body relationship, this unhealthy body image, because they don't realize that literally the thing they're trying to achieve is fake. Like it's literally made up, right? And so many people today have this idea of a body image that they're supposed to achieve that is imaginary. It literally doesn't exist. It's literally made up. And it can drive so many unhealthy dynamics. But more importantly, it can cause so much inner suffering because we're missing those expectations. And so the first step in evolving our relationship or unhealthy body image, whether we're men or women, is to, when we think about an outcome that we're looking to achieve tied to the body, maybe it's a way we want to look, or maybe we do want to lose a little bit of weight, or we want to add a little bit of muscle. Like, there's nothing wrong with any of those things. But the key is, number one, make sure that the outcome or the goal that you're setting for yourself, or that you want your body to achieve, is possible, right? Make sure that it's a realistic possibility that you're looking to strive and achieve. Make sure it's not made up. Make sure it's not imaginary. Number one, make sure it's actually achievable, right? I remember, when I was moving into my 40s and I wanted to get in a little bit better shape, and I wanted to see what was possible from a fitness and physique standpoint. And I remember remembering when I was a competitive martial artist, and I remember like being at the fitness level when I was like 22 years old, 23 years old. And I remember I had to adjust, and I had to say, well, wait a minute, what do I want to achieve, with where I am today, now that I'm, in middle age, right? Now that I'm in my 40s, because I inherently knew that trying to achieve what I did when I was 23 was not going to be healthy, and most likely not even possible to achieve, because that's just not where the body is today. That doesn't mean that outstanding things can't occur. It doesn't mean that you can't create something extraordinary, but you've got to make sure that the outcome that you're wanting to strive for is possible, that it makes sense from an expectation standpoint for where we are in our phase of life. So that's number one. Because if we're striving for a possible expectation, it's possible. So now all of a sudden we can believe in it. We can train inspiration and enthusiasm, and ultimately we can meet our goal. Now, the second thing that we've got to look at from creating a healthy body image and healthy relationship to our body is we have to know, what is our driver? What is our why behind achieving the outcome that we're looking to accomplish? Because if we are looking to look a certain way, and we believe that if we look that way or we achieve that body outcome, that it's going to instill acceptance and confidence in us, then that's not a great driver. If I think that I need to look a certain way in order to be accepted, in order to be liked, in order to have a sense of confidence within myself, in order to feel joy, right, or connection, that's going to be a challenge, because then when I don't feel connected, or I don't feel joyful, or I feel insecure, or I feel disconnect, all of a sudden I'm going to assume that I need to look different, and I'm going to try to manage my body image and my looks in order to acquire acceptance or connection or love or a sense of gratitude or appreciation or acceptance and so on. And that's not the way it works, right? Like, that's not the way the emotions work, right? It's not like we feel a certain way and we feel acceptance. If that was true, every person who looked amazing physically would have an abundance of confidence and joy and empowerment and connection, and they wouldn't live with insecurity and fear and disgust and all of the things that many people do. And so why am I striving to achieve this? And so when you look at your why, what I encourage is tie it to, things like, man, I want to achieve this because I want to be the best version of myself. I want to grow. I want to learn. I want to explore the body. I want to have fun. I want to, be healthy and vibrant throughout my life. I'm looking to achieve wellness. And so your driver, when you look at your why as to what you're looking to achieve with the body, you want it to line you up in a way that you can feel good now and as you make body changes. And so let's say I'm looking to drop a little bit of weight. I can go, well, why do I want to do that? Well, if I take action today, I'm going to create a greater sense of health and vitality within me. And sure, I can be proud of how I'm going to look. Okay, fine. Well, then look at your driver as, feeling great and celebrating the actions that you're taking that are going to move you toward the outcome, as opposed to obsessing about how you look, especially if you're not there yet. Hey, I worked out today. That's awesome. I took a great step for myself. Celebrate that you worked out. Feel confident that you were able to make that change. You're able to take that new action. And so we've got to start relating to the body in a new way. And so, today there's a big, body positive movement that's going on, which I think is great, right? Like learning to appreciate the body for where it is and understand that doesn't inherently mean something about who you are as a person is so very important. Now, on the other hand, we want to make sure that what we're celebrating in relationship to the body and what we're striving for really positions us to live the life that we want. Because, right, again, like if we are inside of some clinical realities and we're inside of clinical obesity as an example, it might be worth, setting some goals for health reasons, right? For vitality reasons. And really, it's not about acceptance. It's not about what's right or wrong with the body. It's more just data. It's like, man, if you're inside of a certain condition with the body, all of a sudden, again, you're prone to diabetes and high cholesterol and high blood pressure. And all of a sudden your reality, like heart and heart attack and stroke and Alzheimer's and things like this that are avoidable or could be avoided, put us at high risk. And so, all this has to do with relationship. And so again, it's not that we need to be super, super, super skinny, like absolutely not. That can be just as unhealthy as obesity, right? Anorexia, right, is a clinical reality too, where people's body image drives them to such a degree that they starve themselves and they don't have enough weight and they're malnourished, and that creates a whole list of health issues and challenges as well. And so we want to make sure that, number one, the body image that we're striving for is possible. And then number two, is it healthy? Does it relate to health and vitality and longevity? If it does, you're good to go. Right. And the reality is, in terms of attraction, right, as they say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. We've all heard that before, right? Not everybody finds the same thing as attractive. Some people love muscular physiques. Some people like a little skinnier. Some people like curves, like it's all fine. But the key is, how are you relating to where you are within yourself? Because if you look at that relationship to the way you're thinking about the body and the way it looks, that is where suffering is going to potentially be driven, or we're going to create a sense of freedom with the body. And so the body can literally be in whatever condition that it's in. And we've got to pay attention to, what are we thinking about the body? What are we saying about the body? Because that's where healthy body image begins. And not only is that where it begins, but that's also what's going to motivate the actions that we take with the body that are going to determine its level of health and vitality. And so when you start to notice, your body, when you see yourself in the mirror, just start to pay attention to, what is the mind thinking about the body? Does it go, man, I'm so grateful for the body that I have. I'm looking better every day. Is it saying, man, I'm just so disgusting. I can't believe this is how I look. I can't even bear to see myself, right? When you look at what the mind is thinking about the body, right, assess that and ask the question, is the mind relating to what's possible for the body? And is this driving a healthy relationship with the body and the way the body looks and my body image? If the mind is affirming the body and it's driving you toward the body that you want and the health and vitality that's important to you, then you're on track. Keep thinking those things. If the mind is thinking, man, I'm disgusting, I look terrible, nobody's going to accept me. When the mind is thinking things of that nature, you have to go, wait, none of that's true, right? As we talk about in our Power Focus program, all beliefs were adopted by way of we heard them over and over again, or we said them to ourselves over and over again within the mind, or sometimes we verbally say them to ourselves, and we adopt them over time. And so we've got to start looking at thoughts differently. Those thoughts that you have about the body are not real and true. They're not fact or fiction, right? It's not this way. It's more, hey, those thoughts are either supporting a healthy relationship to the body, or they're not. And so if the thoughts are not supporting a healthy relationship to the body, don't accept them as real and true. Just say those thoughts are not supporting what I want to achieve, and give yourself permission to begin changing those thoughts. And so this is a great first step to take toward creating a truly healthy body image and relationship to the body. Number one, hey, what's the body I want to create that's possible, right? That's not made up. And then number two, what will it mean for health and vitality as it pertains to the way I want to live and the lifestyle I want to have, and so on. And then number three is, let's pay attention to the way we're relating to the body, where we are now and where we want to go. And are we affirming the body? Are we in a place where, we feel good about where we are and where we're headed? Or are we thinking in a way that is having us feel bad about where we are and feeling like change isn't possible? And so change when it comes to the body is the same as anywhere else. It truly does start within, and it begins with the way you're going to relate to yourself, within yourself, as yourself, and in this case, to the body, that thing that's outside of yourself. So I hope this was helpful. I hope it starts sending you, taking a step in a good direction in terms of, number one, creating the emotional dynamic that's going to be great for you, so you can feel great about who you are and where you are, no matter what your body looks like, and give yourself permission to take action in a way that will better your quality of life. And if you do want to make some body changes, to do so in a way that can be affirming and uplifting and empowering, as opposed to what can happen for so many, where it becomes diminishing. And so, continue to create greatness. Body is just one of those places that we got to tend in order to truly master ourselves in our life. And so, good job being willing to make those changes and take action toward it. Have a great rest of your day.